And 72% of the time the market goes up. And the answer came to me. And that's when I developed my chart. The answer came to me is because, just like Caterpillar, when they pull their money out, you get out. Whoa.
It's your daily dose of how to manage your money. And now it's time for Phil's Gang on the Off the Wall Street Network.
Oh, God. I get nuts.
With your host, Phil Grande.
Bye. Welcome to joining me for my podcast. Hi, I'm Phil Grande. So we got a lot going on. First, I'm going to explain what happened to the market so far this week. What's going on? Why are they telling the Wall Street folks, the TV jibber jabbers, telling the retail traders that yields are going to go up, jump into the banks? And of course, they didn't go up. Why would they do that? We'll talk about that. We'll also want to talk about, here they go again. Let's play the cuts.
The U.S. economy is amazingly strong.
We had the best economy in the history of our country in my first term, and we're blowing it out now. We're blowing it away now.
Numbers just don't show that. They're calling this a great economy, the best economy ever. But wait a minute. We just got our GDP number. GDP missed. Great economies don't miss their GDP number. Okay? Oh, my God. So, trade fell, inventories fell, government spending dropped big time, and of course, the only strength really is coming from consumers and all this AI spending. But wait a minute, that's not broad strength. That's a narrow economy being propped up by what, two categories? So they're calling this the strongest GDP or the strong economy. So here we got a GDP miss, and they're calling this the strongest economy, right? Strongest economy ever, but we missed GDP. This doesn't make any sense. So the economy is not strong, and the GDP is telling us that. It only grew 1.5%. What are you, nuts? That's not strong. That's weak. They told everybody the economy was booming, but the number came in at 1.5%. Play the cuts again, how great the economy is. Okay. Next, we had the number that came in is 1.5%. 1.5%. They expected 2%. See if we can get them to play the cuts. Well, that's okay. Now, the economy, the strongest ever. Okay. If that was the case, would we be missing an estimate that wide? Hey, 2%. Oh, came in at 1%. You don't miss estimates that big when you have a strong economy. What are you, nuts? Now, the only strong parts, as I said, is consumer and spending for AI. But wait a minute. They keep saying the consumer's strong. Hold on a minute. He's not strong. Remember where they're spending. They have no savings. It's all credit cards. And credit card delinquencies are reaching or have reached an historic defaults. There's historic defaults on credit cards. So the spending is coming from credit cards, personal loans, pulling money out of their 401ks, buy now, pay later, that's huge. And not real income. And auto debt, God, they're financing their cars now at 7, 8 years. That's a strong economy. But wait a minute, they missed from 2% to 1%. So, credit card balances are at record high, okay? So let's look at that. Delinquencies are rising fastest since 2008. Savings are totally gone. They're gone. We're back to pre-pandemic lows. People are spending because they have to, not because they're strong. They're using debt to survive, not to thrive. Are you nuts? So when GDP shows strong consumer spending, it's not strength, it's borrowing. That's not sustainable. So people spent money borrowing, going into debt. Now, businesses spend money, but on AI, mostly AI. But that's not broad economic strength. So we have two categories doing all the lifting. That's like we have 5,000 stocks, 700 of the stocks that are the ones that trade every day, the 5,000. There's only 12 stocks holding the whole market up. And remember, during the day, you have $1.3 trillion that's trading. And almost 50%, 45, 48% of that 1.3 trillion goes to tech alone. And when you look at other sectors, how much money goes to the other sectors? 4%, 2%, 3%. Two sectors, I think, were 8%. So 45%, it gets 2%, 1%, 3%. Please. So everything else, think about it. So you got all this borrowing by the consumer. Businesses are spending mostly on AI. And everything else is dragging the economy down, not up. So this is the part that Wall Street and the TV jibber-jabbers who work together, remember how it works. Here you go. You got Wall Street, and then underneath Wall Street, you got what? You got 12 institutions, but 6 are the ones you really talk about. They have all the strength. Why? Because there's $50 trillion that they use and they invest. So you have Wall Street, you have the jibber-jabbers, you have 50 trillion, which 12 trillion goes into the market. And then under that, you got the media, the crooked business media that you see on TV every day that works for Wall Street. And then under that, you got 65 million people who trade every day, retail, who have no clue what they're doing. They don't even know what a yield is. They don't understand yields. And that's the way they want to keep it. Wall Street wants to keep it that way. They continue to scare them so they'll never short, so they can, again, they use this army of 65 million people to push the stocks they want pushed that they own. So Wall Street decides in the morning what stocks they're going to sell and buy. And then they create a story with the media, and they attach some fake fundamental to it, and then they release it, and the 65 million people who have no idea about yields will jump right in and buy whatever stock that the media tells them to buy, because they really think the media is on their side. Now, let's get back to the economy. If the economy was the strongest ever, can you play that cut?
We had the best economy in the history of our country in my first term, and we're blowing it out now. We're blowing it away now.
I love this guy. I do. I know him. Okay. I mean, we're not. We don't swap spit with each other. But I've known him for years. I was grateful he put me in one of his books. But I know the guy. And it's just funny. I only laugh because this guy is the greatest salesman in the world. He put Barnum Bailey to shame. This guy can sell. But the difference is, okay, He's smart. He's smart. He's street smart. He's savvy. And look what he's been doing. I mean, he's just, his term, I mean, just the things he's gotten done. I don't want to go into the politics, so then I'll lose half of you. Okay. So the real economy, what they really brag about is misleading. Yes, final sales to the domestic purchasers rose 3.9%. They talk about how strong the consumer is. Yes, sales went up 3.9%, but wait a minute. Hold on. They do games with the inventories, and by the way, when they say sales went up 3.9%, it's not units. So they didn't sell 1,000 bicycles this month, and the next month they sold 1,000, 1,100. No, they sold less bicycles. But what's going up is the price. So the 3.9% increase in sales, that has not because they're purchasing more, price is going up. So in other words, what they do, and they also too, they don't report a lot of numbers. They remove the export numbers, import numbers, inventory numbers. They always play with the inventory numbers. They remove them. So in other words, they throw out all the weak parts so we don't see them. And they just cherry pick and keep the strongest parts. And inflation is still a big problem, but they're not talking about that either. So all week, the retailers got misled by the TV jibber jabbers. Let's talk about what happened this week. So they got all the TV jibber jabbers all week long saying, we're going to have yields going up. Yields going up. They're going to go higher. So the 65 million people who know nothing about yields, who depend on the jibber jabbers on TV, the financial shows, they all piled into the banks because they're told to buy banks because yields are going to go up. They write down the banks, Kramer, and everybody else tells them to buy, and they jump in. But yields didn't rally. Yields didn't rally. And they're in there, right, thinking they're doing a good job. Hey, stocks are going up. That's going to change because they're the ones moving the stock up. And here's a great example. And when they find out what's going on, they're going to run out of those bank stocks. So you had one group of retail investors going after the banks because they're told yields are going up. That's good for banks. And then you had another group of retail investors who were told to short tech stocks because yields are going up is bad for tech stocks. So they're shorting tech stocks. And those people are really getting clobbered. So they're shorting tech stocks and being promised yields are going up. Well, yields didn't go up. Yields are going down. Now, when yields are going down, usually tech stock rallies. But it's not rallying because you got all these people who are told by the TV jibber jabbers to jump in and sell short the tech because yields are going to go up. Tech doesn't like that, but yields didn't go up. They stayed down. So this morning, what happened? They got trapped big. Because this morning, when the 2-year dropped faster than the 10-year, you got a problem. Anytime you have the 2-year yield drop faster than the 10-year, then those shorting, okay, or those who were shorting, thinking yields were going to go up, and they believed the jibber jabbers, yields were going to go up, and they're in there shorting, they got clobbered this morning. Because when the 2-year dropped faster than the 10-year, the shorts got trapped because what happened? Stocks went up. They're shorting, stocks went up. So then they even made it worse. So now they stopped shorting, turned around, started buying their own stocks back to get out of their trades. Now, the big thing you got to understand is that this happened also between July 17th and the 23rd. And if you look on a chart, let's see if I can get one up here for you quickly. I'll just put up one here. If you look on a chart, let's just put up, if I can here. AMAT, one of our stocks. So if you look at that and you go back to, if you remember, July 17th, same thing happened. And so the stock started to go up from July 17th to July 23rd. And I kept warning, no, don't fall for this. It's a snapback. It's not going to hold. But Wall Street said, but these jibber jabbers are in there telling, buy, keep buying, buy. Buy AMAT, buy these stocks. Yields are going to go down, or yields are going to go down, right? So it snapped back and then it collapsed. We got another snapback. Why is that going to collapse too? Because anytime you have a snapback and a big downtrend, it's over. So Wall Street doesn't tell you the truth. What always tells you the truth are yields. Once you learn how yields work, what a difference it makes in your trading, and we'll help you with that. Okay, philsgang.com. Check us out. See you on the charts.
Are you nuts?